I knew there was something wrong. There'll be times where it was like a continual disturbance in my brain, and it was just everything was an effort. But I now realize that a lot of that was down to the dyslexia.
It's not because you weren't smart, but you didn't know you had dyslexia. Jonathan Kemp is a mental health advocate, former law enforcement officer, and author of Finding Peace of Mind, an inspirational journey through bipolar, depression, addiction, and dyslexia. What else has helped you navigate the negative self-talk?
As soon as the negative thinking come back in, oh, you're useless, you've missed another day, you're not achieving anything, I'll just say, I can start my day again at any time. Knowing how to stop that negative thinking on a continual basis, it's been a lifesaver.
What is your definition of success?
Well, success is, for me,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pause to Elevate with Dr. Kasim Al-Mashat. I am so delighted to share today's conversation with Jonathan Kemp, all the way from London. Join us today if you're interested in navigating a high-stress life and thriving through mental health challenges. Jonathan's story will provide powerful insights and resources into resilience and mental wellness. But first, a warm welcome to you to the Pause to Elevate podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, Kasim. It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure. And, before we met even today, we had a short check-in, and I so enjoyed the conversation we had. You really have such a wealth of experience and expertise.
Thank you.
I wonder, where did this journey to mental wellness begin?
A very good question.
Mhm.
I think it began consciously in my early 20s,
Mhm.
but I think I was looking for what was wrong to try and identify what was wrong or understand what was wrong from probably about age 7 onwards.
Mm.
But that accelerated more in my sort of early teens, late teens.
So it was more like you recognizing, okay, something here's what's not working, or here's what's not working in terms of in school, or there's something, but you didn't get diagnosed till I think you said age 41 with bipolar. Is that right?
Yeah, so I knew by my early 20s that I had an addictive personality.
Mm.
Um, and I also knew that the line for me between sanity and insanity was finer than a piece of hair. And that
Wow.
if I drank or took substances, I couldn't control whether or not I crossed that line.
Mm.
Um, and crossing the line for me usually meant sort of unsociable behavior of one sort or another. And so I actually stopped drinking and taking any substances by about, I think I was 21,
Mhm.
2021, and haven't done so since then
Mm.
because I knew there was something seriously wrong and I couldn't control it,
Mm.
if I was under the influence. And you're right, I got diagnosed with depression when I was 39,
Mm.
bipolar, I think I was 41.
Mm.
And then I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 49.
Because that must have been, confusing, and I don't know if I'm putting words into your experience, but it's like scary not knowing what's going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's going on? How do you make sense of things like spiraling out of control? Like, there's no ground underneath you. Do you know what I mean?
In my early years, up to, let's say, age 12, 13, I mean, I knew there was something wrong.
Mm.
I used to sort of look at others in the classroom and think, if you've got a broken arm, at least you know what the problem is.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, it was something I couldn't see or describe, but there was certainly something wrong. And this is more looking back with the benefit of hindsight. I
Mm.
would have like uncontrollable moods. I would get involved in disagreements, or I would do stupid things and then regret it afterwards. Um, and
Mm.
this sort of, if I was to describe it, it was like a sort of mental nausea,
Uh-huh.
like continual, not all the time, but there'll be times where it was like a continual disturbance in my brain, and it was just everything was an effort. And my studies were never good, but I
Hmm.
now realize that a lot of that was down to the dyslexia.
Yes. Because it's so discouraging. Like, things that you think you should be able to do, the brain is not letting you.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't know at that point that it was something to do with neurodiversity. I mean, I don't think that word was even in public use at that time.
Right.
I associated what was going on. Actually, it's a really interesting point. So I didn't associate what was going on with a form of deficiency or diversity as such. I just formed the opinion that I was stupid and I
Uh,
was no good at studying. Um, and I failed a number of sort of key exams, um, yeah, which reinforced that.
mm. It's time for a quick little update. A few months ago, 2.5% of you who are watching this content were subscribed to this channel. I'm so grateful to you. You helped us move it to 20%. However, if we do the math, that still leaves us 80% of you have not subscribed. Please help me change that. Go ahead and press that subscribe button. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the content. See, that must have been difficult in terms of the way you made sense of it is you started having beliefs about you when it wasn't actually that you weren't smart, but the mind was, needed something else to learn. So you didn't have the tools to work with a dyslexia, for example. It's not because you weren't smart, but you didn't know you had dyslexia. And I think that a lot of people fall into that as well. Oh, what's wrong with me? I must be stupid when they're not.
Yeah, and I think you describe it well, is not having the tools to
Yeah.
deal with, in my case, dyslexia. I think that's a really good description because there was nothing, well, I mean, there were certain things I could do on my own, but a lot of it was tools and techniques to overcome the form of dyslexia that I have. Um, and it's what's interesting is that thinking of being stupid didn't leave me until late 40s, early 50s.
Ah.
So all, all the way through, part of what I was doing, and certainly after I left probably even during actually, but certainly after I left the Metropolitan Police, a lot of what I was doing was driven by this desire to prove to myself and I guess
Hmm.
to other people that I wasn't stupid.
Right. So in a way, it served a function. Wasn't really helpful, but it got you to really attempt achieving a lot of things. Right. Really force yourself. Like you got to prove something. You got to prove something. It-
Yeah, definitely. So my
yeah.
police exams, which were the first exams that I did or tried for and did well, um, absolutely, that drove me to
Mm,
prove that I could do something. But at the time, when I was preparing for both, I didn't actually know if it would work or if it would
mm,
pay off. I mean, my primary technique was just spending a lot of time
mm.
studying and learning, which I didn't do before. And I now realize that, for someone with dyslexia, it's not uncommon for us to spend time and a half to double time or more to
Right.
learn the same thing as other people. That's just the way it is.
Yes. Yeah. So you worked a lot harder than the person next to you, like in your.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
couldn't really understand why.
Yeah.
Um,
For those who are maybe are new to mental health, is what is dyslexia? If you can help them understand, if they've never heard of it, they're like, what did I've heard of it? Heard of neurodivergent? What is that?
yeah. So I would see them almost as two distinctive elements. So mental health is, for me, about managing
Mm,
mental illnesses. And to give you an example, for me, one is like addiction, depression.
mhm.
I'm bipolar.
Mhm.
bipolar. So that's what I'd describe as mental illnesses.
Mhm.
Mental well-being, I see as something slightly different in
Mhm.
that for me, mental well-being refers to just doing what all of us can do on a day-to-day basis to live comfortably. So to live
Mhm.
without extreme stress or anxiety. Mental illness are
Mhm.
the actual illnesses. Well-being are the things that we can do to lead the best sort of mentally healthy life that we can.
Mhm.
And then neurodivergence is something else again. So neurodivergence is, for me, and there are a number of different types. So dyslexia is one, ADHD is another,
Mhm.
autism is another. So these are different ways that the brain thinks and processes
Mhm.
information,
Mhm.
as opposed to an illness. So with me, the bipolar illness means that I have a reduced control over emotional fluctuations, which are extreme. And
Mhm.
without medication, I've discovered to my cost, I can't solve it through mental willpower.
Right.
And so going back to neurodivergence, so my experience, I mean, we call it on the spectrum. So most people are sort of in the middle.
Mhm.
Um, and if you've got it, you might be at one end of the spectrum. And I'm probably on the spectrum for a lot of things, but is the thing that sort of bothers me the most and affects me the most is the dyslexia.
Mm.
And so, what dyslexia means is
Mm.
what it's most commonly known for is trouble reading. So, I might pick up a book, and when I'm reading the book, how it affects me, and it affects people differently, but there are
Right.
some commonalities. I
Right.
will jump words, I will jump lines, I'll read to the end of the page, I'll have absolutely no idea what it was talking about and have to
Mm.
reread it again. But the dyslexia also affects me with not only visual processing, but auditory processing. So if I'm
Mm.
listening to someone and the information is complex or it's theoretical or it's using a lot of terminology, I can hang in there for a few minutes, but quite quickly my brain will just go like a sort of fuzzy television and I just
Ah.
reach a point and I just think, can't do it.
Yeah. Mm.
So one of the things I did was develop a technique that enables me to listen and focus and concentrate and increase my understanding all at real time.
Mm. Actually, I'd love us to get into that, and we'll come back to that. That's the smart wisdom technique, I
Correct.
think. Is that
Yeah.
yes? Yeah. I'd love to dive deep into that. So let's come back to that in a moment. I just want to go back to this self concept, and one of the things that I know you write about is this. Try your best for today. And I really like that, like as a way to counter the negative self talk. Do your best for today. I guess what else has helped you navigate the negative self talk, which we all have this, self doubt, what's wrong with me, whatever. But what else has helped you? I love this, how you said it, like try your best just for today.
So I was very, very against seeing a medical professional for my mental illnesses. And I
Mm,
didn't really understand that I had mental illnesses. But when I eventually did, and then a couple of years later, after refusing initially, eventually had medication,
mm,
what I found was the medication enabled me to think more easily.
mm,
And so, and by which time I started having therapy. So by that time, the thinking techniques were more effective.
mm,
But where it sort of became even more so, actually, for me, was 20 years later during COVID. And I had three bipolar highs and crashes in quite quick succession.
mm,
And I was really, really struggling. And, my thinking was back to this sort of mental nausea and just everything was an effort.
mm,
And so I had to work really hard at countering And I wanted to work really hard at countering this negative thinking. So, coming to your point, what else was there? So, one of the things I used to do is give myself a really hard time. If I didn't get up really early and start like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
If I got up at 8 or 8:30, as far as I was concerned, I'd wasted the day. So
Ah.
one saying that I came up with, which helped to negate that sort of self criticism,
Mm.
was no problem. I can start my day at any time.
Hmm.
And as soon as the negative thinking would come back in, oh, you're useless. You've missed another day. You're not achieving anything. I'll just say, I can start my day again at any time. And so
Hmm.
then I have a choice. I can either carry on with this negative talk, or I can start my day again, which means that everything's fresh.
Hmm.
And so I found that incredibly helpful. And the one about
Hmm.
trying my best, again, I found incredibly powerful, because what I used to do was I'd think, oh, I haven't been successful. I'm no good. I'm useless.
Hmm.
And it would just go on and on. And what I would then do, I came up with this saying is, can I just try my best for today? Or can
Mhm.
I try my best for the next hour? And again, so I can either carry on with that negative talk,
Mhm.
or I can completely focus and think, can I try my best? And the reason I found that really powerful, because the very most I can do is try my best. I can't do any more than that.
Right. Right.
And the most I can do is try my best today, in this next 5 minutes or this next hour or this next couple of hours.
Mm.
And so the combination of those two things, start a day again at any time and can I try my best,
Mm.
helped me to negate some of the really powerful negative thinking. I mean, it was hard work because my medication had stopped working. I'd been on it for 20 years and it had stopped working about, I don't know, probably effectively 5 years before.
Ah.
But it kept me going. I
Mm.
mean, and particularly these sayings that I had. And another one, I'd be thinking, oh God, I can't go and see these people. I can't.
Mm.
I'm not,
Can't see people like going out, you mean, or?
yeah, like going out or going to
Yeah, yeah.
see clients or doing. So I do executive training and coaching,
Mm.
and I came up with two sayings. One is, seeing friends is good for my mental health, and I
Mm.
just keep repeating it. And the other one, it was, seeing clients is good for my mental health.
Mm.
And the reason I came up with that is I know from experience is, after I've seen someone, I do,
Yeah.
more often than not, even if I find it difficult to admit, I do feel slightly better. And that's why I came up with those two sayings. And I will just
Mm.
repeat it over and over and over. And now I've had a change of medication, and so everything is much
Mhm.
easier, but I still use these sayings.
Mhm. It's so interesting. We often want to feel better before we do something. Like we're often like, "Oh, I want to feel better before I reach out to a friend," or "I want to feel better before I go for a walk or exercise," or "I want to feel." But really, your journey is like, wait a minute. You can feel how you feel. You're allowed to feel that. Recognize the negative self-talk, which we all have, and then take action. Like you took action, and the two statements you're mentioning, it's like, wait a minute, I can feel better seeing friend. It's good for my wellness. I can take a step. Like you actually worked with it to feel better, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it in that way, but you're quite
Mm.
right. Is,
Mm.
I know what the end result will be,
Yeah.
and therefore I will focus my thinking on what I know to be true,
Mm.
even though that activity hasn't happened yet.
Mhm.
Because wherever I can, I want to counter or shorten the negative thinking,
Yeah.
because it just drives me into the ground otherwise.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's like quicksand. As soon as we get into that, it's just a quicksand just pulls us right in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remind me, I did a long retreat, meditation retreat, silent retreat in Myanmar for 6 months. And I had days where I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to get through like another day, let alone another hour. And I had something similar, like what you're saying, which for me was like, just this minute. I just have to be in this one. I just have to be in this minute. There'd be periods of like emotions come in and sadness comes in and memories come in and then old traumas would come in and get flooded. Just have to be in this one. Just, just, just this step, just this minute. And soon enough minutes do pass. So I really appreciate what you've come up with. It's just ways for navigating challenges, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I got these things from all over, from different places. So
Mm.
initially, the idea of just for today, or that general concept, I actually picked up from 12 step fellowships. It's one of the
Mhm.
slogans that they have.
Right.
Like, I think that one of the most common ones is like Alcoholics Anonymous, or there's Narcotics
Yes.
Anonymous, etc., etc. And they have a number of slogans, and one of them is just for today.
Yeah.
Um, and I know, and then, yeah, I've sort of picked things up in different places,
Mm.
different times, merged ideas.
Hmm.
But knowing how to stop that negative thinking on a continual basis,
Hmm.
yeah, it's been a lifesaver.
Yeah. Yeah. But you've done multiple things, and I think that takes incredible courage. Like even seeking support takes courage, and not to generalize, but a lot of us men feel like, oh no, I don't need to talk to someone. I got this. Like, and especially in policing, and I also work with, police, and here in Canada we call Royal Canadian Mounted Police (RCMP), and incredible work they do. But I mean, everybody's human, and. So it made me think, like, how did you get through that period with the internal chaos you're describing? You add like fire to that, like being in policing. I'm like, wow, how did you get through? And I think you were there for, was it 10 years or something?
12 years.
12 years. That's a long time to be in policing with all of this. So how did you do that? And you seek support after, right? Or before?
Um, so I went to like self-help fellowships before,
Before, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually during. Yeah, no, for the first 5 years, I didn't didn't see anybody.
Wow.
And it was only actually when I got promoted that I then started going to a 12-step fellowship,
Yeah.
because my mental state was not good at all. But actually, looking back, funny enough, the being in the police really helped me.
Hmm.
And the reason for that, although, I still had the mental turmoil, uh, and some days it was difficult just to function. But the reason it really helped me, there were a couple of
Mm.
things. One is there's like a sort of timetable you need to adhere to. So your life has a structure.
Mm.
And although, we were working around the clock 24 hours, there was a definitive structure. We had to be at work at a set time,
Right.
looking in a certain way. We had objectives to do depending on what type of role we were in.
Mm.
Um,
Just kept you focused.
it gave me structure,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
gave me focus, um, which are two key elements for my life today. And I
Mm.
didn't realize how much that helped or why it helped until relatively recently, actually.
Mm. So despite it being challenging, like being policing is not a cakewalk, but somehow it provided you with good experiences of structure and being with others and contributing, and like you had a clear purpose there.
Yeah, and you've actually mentioned another of the things that really helped, which is being with others. So we
Yeah.
would work in teams, and I was lucky where I went. I was with a really good team,
Mm.
um, and there was a good mixture of highly experienced officers who've been working long term, and quite a substantial intake of newer officers.
Hmm.
And again, it's really COVID taught me a lot. But looking back, that being with others, as you describe it, crucial,
Hmm. Yeah, there's something powerful about human connection. Like we're
definitely.
social animals, social beings. And somehow when we're not feeling well, we want to withdraw. Like it's
Correct.
very instinctual. Like leave me alone. Like the lone wolf. Leave me alone. I don't want to deal with anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone. But that often makes it worse in time.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess what would you say to someone? And you've done such incredible work already. I know you're continuing to do this work about raising awareness. Like, what would you say to someone who maybe hasn't reached for support, and they're like, I don't know if anyone can help me. How can a stranger help me? Wherever it is, depending on the region, of course, someone has to reach to proper support in their region. But they're like, I don't know if someone can really help me. Like, who knows me better than me? What would you say to someone to encourage them to seek support?
Regardless of one's profession,
Mm,
or one might be, a stay-at-home mum, or one might be a teenager,
yeah.
somebody at university. A few things, if they said, I would completely understand because that's how I felt for years. So some things that held me back was that I should be able to figure this out on my own,
Right.
my head, my brain, my mind. And my goodness, I tried. And another one was seeing a doctor, um, or a therapist, or a psychiatrist was a weakness, was a sign of
Mm,
weakness and a sign of defeat. So that's how I used to see it. And
right.
that's why, I didn't get help until I think I saw my first therapist when I was 38, 39.
Mm,
But I had to be pummeled into the ground to do that.
right.
I had tried everything, from
Things had to
making.
get bad. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in my head, how I was feeling, again, it comes back to what you were saying. I associated that with something external. I
Mm,
thought if I fix this, then I'll feel better. And this
right.
was things like making money, doing well in my job, getting, good quality degrees, um, doing work other than policing, um, radical diets, radical
Mm,
exercise regimes. Um, I tried religion for a short bit, but I
mm,
knew that wasn't for me.
mm,
I ticked off all the things that I could think of. I tried following a sort of self-help guru for a bit.
mhm,
Um, and whatever I did, and I think this is also a feature of actually bipolar, is I would throw myself into it 100%.
oh, yeah.
So when I went on a diet, um, overnight, I switched to just eating vegetables, not even didn't even use cooking oil. And,
Wow. So going to the extremes.
yeah, yeah, I could see no point in doing
Yeah.
anything unless I did it in my in my own way, 100+%. I couldn't see any
Mm,
point in doing anything, and that didn't matter whether it was trying to make money on the stock market, or it was studying, or a diet, or
mm,
exercise. Um, So at 39, I'd reached what I call another fork in the road. It was either time to call it a day, or I had to do something different. And the only
mm,
different thing that I could think of was seeking professional medical help.
mm,
So fast forward 20 years or so, what do I think now? So in terms of I should be able to figure this out on my own, I was applying one rule for my brain, which is part of my body, that
mm.
I didn't apply to any other part of my body. So I didn't apply it to even things that sit around my brain. So, like my eyes, if I had a problem with my eyesight, at some point I lost eyesight in one of my eyes actually because of the stress I put myself under on an
Mm.
extreme diet.
Oh, wow.
I'd go and see an eye doctor. If I had problems with my
Right.
ears, ear doctor. If I had a problem with my teeth, I'd go and see a dentist. So even
Right.
things around my brain, if there was a problem, I'd go and see a doctor. And with from my neck down, you know, absolutely. I mean, I had problem dislocating my arms at one point. You know, I would no more try and think that better. Just impossible. And so I eventually realized, well, actually, the brain is just another part of the body. It just happens to be probably one of the most complex parts of the body. So why am I giving myself a hard time trying to fix something that and applying rules that I don't apply to the rest of my body?
Mm.
Um, and that sort of shift in thinking made a huge difference.
Mm. What a shift, because it's so easy to get attached to beliefs. Like, I have to go all in or it's a waste of time. Like, very black and white type of thinking, like polar opposite, this or that. And it's like the mind really overcommits, like, and then to detrimental. And that's what you experience. Like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. So, a couple of things that you're speaking about right now made me think about definitions of success as well. And I wonder, what is your definition of success? Because you seem to have reshaped, like, oh, when I get this, then I'll be successful. When I get this job, when I get this thing, that's success. And many people's success is money as well, right? So, what is your definition of success?
Another very good question.
Hmm.
And again, it was something that sort of came to fruition
Mm.
during COVID. Do you describe it as COVID or COVID in
COVID.
Canada?
Yeah, I think both go.
Both go, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so I come from a very privileged
Mm,
English background, and my sort of four fathers, sort of
mm,
great grandparents, great great grandparents, were very successful entrepreneurs, actually in the cloth industry in
mm,
England. Um, so I had a very privileged upbringing.
mm.
Um, Mental health is the great leveler.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you come from, what you achieve. If something is wrong with the brain, something is wrong with the brain. One of the things that had been driving me, probably not the best word to use, bearing in mind we're talking about mental health, but one of the things that had been driving me nuts
Mhm.
for many, many years was achieving wealth and achieving success.
Mm,
And I wasn't really consciously aware of it. And I think a psychiatrist pointed it out to me, and then a
mm,
therapist pointed it out to me. And this was in my late 50s, early 60s.
mm,
And I thought about it for a year or so because I was sort of aware that I was, giving myself a hard time, but I didn't really I wasn't that consciously aware of it. And then about 3 years ago, I thought, hold on a second, I can define my own version of wealth. It doesn't have to be
mm,
money or position.
mhm,
And I know when reading about, successful people, inverted commas, often it's because they just find themselves in the right place at the right time. And I thought to myself, well, what have I got which has or which could have a value? So rather than starting something anew, which was another of my favorite hobbies, what have I got right now that has value? And I thought to myself, well, I've got 50 plus years experience of mental health,
mm,
20 plus years of trying to do it myself, 20 plus years of getting professional help. And I thought that is a huge wealth of knowledge. And similarly, I've got 50 plus years experience with managing neurodiversity, in my
mm.
case,
That
dyslexia. And because I'm quite competitive as well, I thought actually, I could run with that.
Hmm.
That is an incredible amount of knowledge. And I thought to myself, okay, that makes sense. And then the second part of the equation was what you asked me was
Mhm.
success. Well, what is
Right.
success? And I thought to myself, well, success is for me would be to put that knowledge into one place and to then put that into the public sphere to benefit other people. And it's not to sell X number of books or
Mm.
do X number of talks. It's just to do my best to put that knowledge into the public sphere. Um, and once I figured those two things out, actually, life for me became a lot easier.
Mm. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to quickly thank you for stopping by and watching this content. It truly means the world to me that you're interested in creating positive change. I also want to invite you to join our amazing community. I have free events online about mindfulness, mindfulness based stress reduction, laughter, as well as retreats that you can do from the comfort of your own home. And are you ready for this? Self paced program that you can do about mindfulness and stress reduction. So you can join the newsletter below to stay up to date on all these goodies. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and press that button. It really helps me to keep this content going and reach out to more guests. Thank you so much again, and may you continue enjoying watching this episode. What a reframe as I hear you describe it. So success wasn't about getting somewhere, arriving somewhere in the future, but actually using the wealth of knowledge you've had in your life and putting it together. And so success is here actually. You've
Again,
arrived
it's
at
the here and now. Yeah.
it's you're right here, and the culmination of it is the book. Like you when you say you put everything together, it is in the book. Is that right? In terms of which is beautifully, everyone can see behind you if you're watching, if you're listening. It's Finding Peace of Mind, and I'll put the link in the show notes to the book as well. But that's actually a wealth of knowledge. That's a incredible resource. So can you share a little bit about that? Like that's what inspired you to put the book.
Um, Absolutely. But I
Yeah.
wasn't prepared to do the book unless I had a sustained period of mental good health.
Mm.
And after a few rocky years during COVID, I reached out to the doctor again. They referred me to a psychiatrist. I think I saw a psychiatrist within less than a week, which is almost unheard of.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been really lucky.
Mm.
They recommended I change my medication,
Mm.
and up until that point, I'd refused to do it because I know it can be uncertain.
Yeah.
And anyway, I did change. It was a bit of a rocky road, but after about 4 months, 5 months, it was like a miracle. It wasn't an effort to think. It
Mm.
wasn't an effort to live, to breathe.
Ah.
It was like an absolute miracle.
Mm.
And so at that point, I thought, okay, I'm going to do this book. And the book is really sort of three books in one. So the first part
Mhm.
is my memoir of, my story and how things evolved.
Mhm.
And what I thought is where I can add particular value is I'm highly analytical. So, and I will continually test, evaluate, test, evaluate. So I thought, why don't I put my sort of analysis in this book? And that's sort of really part two. So, for example,
Mhm.
I think there are about 10 or so points that I used to think which stopped me from getting help. So, for example, seeing a doctor is a weakness. So I put
Mm.
what I used to think, explain it a bit, and then I put what I think now.
Yes.
And then I also identified what I call foundations. So 14 foundations that I use on a daily basis, which help with my mental well-being. And I put them in an order that makes sense to me. But what I've learned is what's right for one person isn't necessarily right for anybody else.
Right.
And the key thing is to work out what is right for you. And so, although I've put these foundations in and I've put them in order of priority for myself, I've explained that I recommend everyone, to find
Mhm.
their own. But for me, number one is sleep. I mean, it's that simple. I
Yeah.
need 7 to 8 hours sleep to function well. And
Mm.
getting up at 4 in the morning, now for me now is like a danger sign. Whereas
Right.
before it'd be, I'd be humming and, all engines firing at 4 in the morning, thinking, yeah, right, let's crack on with this. Oh dear. And now if I wake up, I won't get out of bed. Um,
Yeah.
so there's, and then having a structure to the day is crucially important. Having a sort of
Mhm.
organized environment, simple environment, again, makes a huge difference for me. So those are the different foundations.
Mm.
Um, and then the last part of the book is resources.
Mhm.
And what I decided to do only about 3, 4 weeks ago, I think it was,
Mhm.
is that for the first, so the book's going to be published on the 10th of October, which is World Mental Health Day.
Mhm.
And for the first year, all profits will go to 4 mental health charities.
Yeah.
And the reason I decided to do that was to sidestep, any sort of discomfort people might feel about me talking about a book, thinking, oh, well, he's just doing that to, you know, make money or further his
Right.
career. So I decided that with the profits of the book, and also if I do any talks on either mental health or neurodiversity, um, again, for that first year, in that case, you know, all proceeds will go to the 4 mental health charities.
That's incredibly generous. It really is. I mean, this is walking the talk. Like you were moved to put this book together, life experience to contribute, to make a difference. And then probably had a thought, oh, maybe I should just make this for the first year complete donation. What a beautiful kind gesture for humanity. If we all did that, imagine if everyone did that, like a year of offering just to support others. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
So, with that in mind, and it was partly what I'm about to say next that encouraged me to take that route, um, I thought to myself, well, what can I do, for the success element? So, putting my
Mhm.
knowledge and experience out in the public sphere. And so, what I've decided to do, and I smile because I sometimes wake up in the morning thinking, you must be crazy. So, what I've decided to do is a 7 month mental health walk and talk.
Mm.
And I will start in the north of Scotland. There are some islands beyond the north of Scotland called the Shetland Islands. And on the 1st of January next year, I will start there. And over 7 months, I'm going to walk all my way through Scotland, then through parts of England, up through Wales, then across to Ireland and down the length of
Wow.
Ireland. And with the larger towns and cities, I will spend 2 or 3 days, with the idea being to do talks,
Hmm.
either to businesses or to education establishments or public services.
So this is I think you named it the pilgrimage, right? It's a mental health. Is that what
Yeah,
you?
initially I was talking about pilgrimage, but
Yeah.
that had a slight religious element. So I've now gone to the mental health walk and talk.
Yes. What an adventure that's going to be. And I actually look forward to having a round two with you after that, after your completion, because I can't even begin to imagine all the stories you'll have after 7 months of that. But you see, you're doing something which is actually really difficult. It's not, whatever it is, you're setting a target that's beyond comfort zone. Like, you're saying you wake up some days, you're like, oh my, what have I committed to? Right. And there's this leaning into the discomfort, like, because it's much more comfortable not to, right? Like, and I think that's part of success as well that you've created is you've challenged yourself in ways to create change. You've challenged yourself to go, this is not comfortable, but I think it will be good for me. Whether reaching for a friend, whether doing this walking, and say, this is not comfortable, but I think it's going to be good. I think it's gonna have contribution. Let me do it.
Yeah, and actually on that theme, what I then realized or decided last week was to actually set myself targets within that walk. So,
Mm.
for example, um, one target is to do 30 talks on mental health and mental well-being throughout the
Wow.
journey. Now, what I hope to do is exceed that, but I'm going to set a target, a realistic target, I think, of 30. Another target will be 30 in-person interviews, just people I meet along the way and have a chat about mental health.
Mm.
And again, I'll post these on social media. Um, and by having those targets, that will help me to be even more focused on a day-to-day basis because
Mm.
I'm not just going to do a walk. I've got very specific things that I would like
Right.
to do.
This is like multi-layered because it's not just a walk and a talk. Like, wow. Yeah. Mm. I just want to go back to something, and like I was saying, I would love to have a conversation with you after all of that as well. What an adventure that's going to be. But I want to go back to the book because the book is filled with wisdom. It really is. And I want to ask you about a couple more things about that. So we've talked about success and what success means for you, which I find really helpful. But something you talk about in the book as well, which is kind of taboo in our culture, which is so important to talk about, is suicidal thinking, suicidal thoughts. And there's a lot of shame around it. Oh, like, what's wrong with me? I'm thinking this. And, being in the field that I'm in, personally having heard my own thoughts and working with so many people, it's like it's so human to have that thought. It's just a thought, but it's human when we feel an overwhelm. Like the brain goes, I can't anymore. I guess this is better. So, can you speak about suicidal thinking and really the courage to talk about it? And you have a whole section in your book, even about an emergency plan and a safety plan, which some people don't even know what that is. So, can you speak a little bit about your experience? And I think it's really important. We put that on the
Okay.
table.
So if I do the last thing first,
Mm.
um, again, the emergency action plan within mental health circles, I think, is sort of quite common,
Hmm.
but I'd never heard of it until I reached out again for help during COVID.
Hmm.
A health emergency action plan is what to do when things get really tough. And actually, I remember writing it and wincing when I wrote what I put down as
Mm.
number one. And number one was to do the exact opposite of what I want to do when I'm in a bad place,
Mm.
which is to keep an open mind and be willing.
Ooh.
Number two was to see a professional medical um, expert, whether it be a doctor or a therapist or a
Mm.
psychiatrist.
Yes.
Number three was to take the actions that they suggest.
Mm.
And when I had I think it was third or fourth crash during COVID, and I was really at my wits' end. I remember I started this emergency action plan, but I couldn't remember what I
Mm.
put in it. Um, and so I searched for it and found it on my laptop, and I reread it, and I thought, oh my goodness,
Mm.
no, open-minded, willing. Oh no,
Oh no, not that stuff.
not yeah, not that. Please, not that. See a doctor? No. Do what
Uh,
they say? No. Um, but I thought, right, I've written this. I'm going to do it. Doesn't matter
mm.
what I think. I am going to do this, and I did. Um, and I sort of did things the doctor asked me I wouldn't have done in a month of Sundays before. Even things like phoning up self-help groups or suicide prevention groups.
Mhm.
Um, Changing the medication I'd refused flatly to do for years,
Yeah.
well, probably 5, 10 years. But actually, that was crucial to me, managing my illness.
Mhm.
So suicide, I mean, they call it suicide ideation.
Hmm.
I'd, from a young age, I had, without almost effortlessly, thought it'd be better to be dead than alive.
Mm,
And, something would happen, and I would think, without really thinking too much about, oh, God, I wish I was dead.
mm,
And that was my answer to a lot of things. Um, I actually went into treatment. I got a loan, bank loan in the UK, and I went out to the US
mm.
for mental health treatment. When I was, that's when I got diagnosed with bipolar,
Ah,
and I was explaining this to the psychiatrist about the suicide ideation, and they said, "Do you realise if you take that step, some of the people, sorry, close to you will never get over it." And
right.
that was like a punch to the solar plexus. And that actually
Mm,
stopped a lot of that, enabled me to stop a lot of that sort of casual ideation.
right. Like the impact it has on others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, but not just anybody, the people close to me.
Mm,
However, having said that, when I have a bipolar crash, um, it is literally like my brain's been removed. And all is left is this sort of like sandstorm of thinking roaring around inside my head, and anything that might have worked before, whether it was affirmations or
mm,
meditation or exercise or whatever it was,
yeah.
or medication, none of it works. And when I'm in it, it's like it's never happened before, which is obviously strange because it has happened before.
Mhm.
And also, when I'm in it, I know beyond any shadow of doubt it will never finish,
Ah.
even though I know I've been through this process. So it takes roughly, I'd say, 2 to 4 weeks for some sort of normality to come back, and probably 4 to 8 weeks for the brain to start functioning again reasonably.
Mhm. So this is after the bipolar crash. Takes 2 to 4
Correct.
weeks. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But during COVID, I now realize with the benefit of hindsight, I was depressed most of the time.
Mm,
And after the crashes, it was just getting more and more difficult just to function. And
mm.
the analogy I give, it's like being tortured all your life, and you
Ah.
put up with it for years and years and years. And then you reach a point where you just think, I've had enough.
Mm.
I'm not going to do this any longer. And what I'm thinking of erasing is not myself particularly, it's more
Mm.
my brain.
Ah.
And I just want it. I want that torture to be finished.
Mm.
And I think there are degrees, but I knew it was getting serious when, sort of checking out buildings. I'm an ex-police officer, so I don't want to make too much of a mess. You know, might hit something, might not. Maybe somewhere private in a wood. Yeah, I need to put a message. Inform relatives and da da da.
Right. So you thought about details. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And being an
Yeah.
ex-police officer, I had to deal with those in my job.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm sort of like I'm already thinking about, doing it in such a way that it won't be too traumatic for the emergency services.
Mm.
And on the last occasion, I knew I was in trouble when, the last one or two people who I'm very close to, even that felt like not a reason any longer. And I
Ah.
knew at that point I was in deep, we call it doo doo.
Yes. Right. So this is when you went to your emergency plan or safety plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's something, that you do ahead of time. And depending on, again, where you live, the region you live in, I would encourage everyone, if you're curious or you know someone that could benefit from this, just Google safety plan, emergency plan. There's a lot of templates, there's suicide hotlines, and it's actually really, it's really helpful to think through when there's no storm, so that when the storm comes, you don't have to figure it out then. It's like you have a plan to go to. And that's what you described. Like it got to a point where, well, even like, so what if people that matter to me, so they'll deal with it. Like when these signals, when you hear these thoughts, and that could be on the plan itself, when I hear thoughts saying who cares, activate the emergency safety plan, like that's what's so practical about it.
Yeah, it was that plus
Hmm.
I'd got down to the point of saying to myself, okay, can I live for the next hour?
Hmm.
And then I'd write a list of things to do. I'd set my alarm, and then it'd be the next hour. So I was trying to live at 1 hour at a time.
Hmm.
And then it got down to when it was really bad, 5 minutes.
Just hang in there, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just here. Yeah. I mean, that has also a mindfulness component. And I know you speak about mindfulness and meditation in your journey. And I'm wondering what role has that supported you in your journey? Mindfulness.
Well, it's interesting. I would agree. And now that I look back and think about mindfulness and what it entails, a lot of what I've done historically without realizing it helps me to be mindful. So,
Mm.
like in the police work, just turning up to work means that I am then focused on something.
You're
So
present with something.
yeah, I'm then mindful. And the times that I functioned best was, when
Mm.
I was actively involved in police work, whether, arresting criminals or dealing with an emergency accident,
Mm.
or on, tricky public order events.
Hmm.
Um, I'm in the moment.
Right. You have to be present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I now realize is a form of mindfulness. So a
Mm.
lot of what I do, I've sort of come at it from a different angle, but probably only in the last sort of maybe 3, 4 months, if that, have realized a lot of these things, it's just another form of mindfulness.
Mm.
So, for example, you know, when I go to a cafe or something,
Hmm.
often I will just, ask the person serving, "How are you?" You know, "How's your
Hmm.
day?" But when I do that, that brings me into the moment. And similarly, quite often I'll clear my table, I'll take all the dirty things up back to the counter.
Mm.
But all of these things helps me to like refocus and be in the moment. Um, and actually, you were asking about success. So success, I now often measure in just small things during the day.
Mm.
Did I write a list of things? Yes. And actually, when I write a list of things, I'm in the moment and therefore I'm
Right.
mindful again. Did I meditate in the morning? Yes. When I do that, that's a more obvious example of mindfulness. When I'm walking along the street, am I trying to, just appreciate the ability to walk along the street, feel the wind or the sun on my arms? And I will
Mm.
purposefully do that and maybe focus on the movement of my feet.
Right. On the
Um,
sensations, on the.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did I live in central London, so there are often people looking completely lost
Yeah.
walking
Yeah.
around, and because there are a lot of tourists. So, when appropriate, I'll go up to someone and say, "Can I help you? Do you know where to go?" And so I will point things
Mm.
out. And in that moment, I'm mindful.
Yeah.
So I've come to realize that a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis, which I determine as success, helps me also by default to be mindful.
Mm. So there's awareness, there's being present. There's something in, I teach what's called mindfulness based stress reduction, MBSR. That really teaches mindfulness in a practical way and working with stress and illness and challenges in life. And there's a description that I really find helpful. And this is not just in MBSR, but in working with mindfulness, is there's formal and informal mindfulness. And I really like that description. So the formal is the kind of timed slot, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes of doing some meditation. It could be a stillness meditation, like a sitting meditation, or it could be a movement meditation. And then there's informal, which is the rest of life, right? So it's like moments exactly what you're describing. Can I be present with like looking at my surrounding? Oh, but I'm at the cafe. Can I ask a question and can I listen? Like actually being there for it, like actually being there for it, rather than waiting in line, talking to the person in front of us, and we're not even listening. We're like somewhere else. So you've really connected with this practice so beautifully. So just that's awareness, and as I hear you talk, you actually brought to life. I just want to, I couldn't help but wanted to say this because the research into mindfulness tells us there's a couple of components. There's intention, so you clearly have an intention to be mindful of intention. Then there's attention. Where are we putting our attention? Because it's attention regulation as well. Where's the mind? And there's attitude. These are the three components: intention, attention, and attitude. And the attitude is the attitude that I hear from you is the attitude of curiosity, attitude of non-judgment, and attitude of kindness. Right? You're not looking at the table going, "What's wrong with people? They didn't clear the table." You know what I mean? Like it's like with attitude of kindness. So I had a smile internally as I heard you speak. I'm like, wow, you're embodying that. You're living that. You're bringing it to your daily life.
And I've come to this point
Mm,
through a desire to survive.
mm,
Uh, uh, I'm I'm not on the cards, for spiritual, what you would call it, greatness.
mhm.
I've come to this point because these things help me survive and
Yeah,
help me,
practical.
yeah, live day to day,
Yeah.
um, and have meaning and these mini successes all through the
Yes.
day.
Yes. Yeah. Just this one. Just right here. Just right here. Just right here. Brings us to the present moment. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is this smart wisdom. So, can you share about what is this smart wisdom? What did you develop and how can it help folks? I know it's also in your book, but what is smart wisdom?
Smart wisdom is a different type of note taking. So
Mm,
if I take the example of a school lecture, or it could be a business presentation, when you sit in that school lecture or the business presentation, you've got a number of options. You can sit and listen,
mhm.
which means that you'll forget most of what's being said within 24 hours.
Yeah.
You can sit and type. That's number two.
Mm,
And if you do that, your focus is on the recording of what's being said. And at that point, your understanding of what's being said decreases.
mm,
And for all intents and purposes, actually, with the latest technology, you might as well just put a recorder at the front or on the table,
right.
allow it to record, and then get a transcription and an AI summary. Um, and then the third option is to take notes.
Mm,
And the way we've been taught to take notes is to record things either verbatim or part verbatim in sentences and bullets.
right. Like dictating. Tick, 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 tick. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the more we dictate, the more we go into like automatic recording mode, which is the same mode that we go into
Mm,
when we're typing. But probably out of the three options, sitting and listening, typing, or taking traditional notes,
mm,
that third one is the one that helps you the most with concentrating, listening,
mm.
understanding, because you're taking the information and in some way, even if you're just writing down in sentences or bullets, you might be linking them together. You're processing the information, which helps
Right.
with the understanding and the memory.
Mm,
And so, what smart wisdom does, I started off with another, what I call information mapping technique, and then gradually developed smart wisdom, which has its own characteristics.
mm,
But in the simplest form, rather than writing a sentence, what you do is you just take out the key information and the key detail,
Hmm.
You let everything else go and you connect what's left on a series of lines. So there's one word per line, and then
Oh.
you connect these lines together. And what that does, and you then, when there's a new heading, you break and you create a new line, series of lines. So you're constantly
Oh.
recreating what you're listening to, but in a hierarchical structure, like a spider's web with all the key information
Oh.
in the middle and then the detail on the outside. But that level of processing means that your brain is engaged to such a point where your listening immediately accelerates, your concentration accelerates, and your understanding of what you're listening to
Mm,
in real time accelerates.
mm.
So those people who think, oh, I'll just use AI to record the meeting, again, what's happening is they're thinking, well, I'll wait till after the meeting, or I'll
Right. So
wait
they're
till
not
after.
they're not there for it.
Exactly. And funnily enough, it's it might sound blooming obvious, but I twigged in the last week or so. This is in effect another form of mindfulness, because when
Mm,
you use smart wisdom, you are completely on point,
yeah.
and you can maintain that for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour.
Hmm. So now when you're describing, I'm just trying to get the visual of it. Like it's almost like word mapping. So you're having mapping out, but you're making connections with lines of key concept of what's being said. So you're not taking notes of everything. Is that right?
You're
Just as
Yes, you're
yeah.
taking, you're capturing all the, you go further than just the concepts, you capture all the detail, and
Ah.
then you link the detail together. So you would look at it and it looks like a spider's diagram. But if you know how to read it, it is highly structured and highly logical, because on
Hmm.
each thread there is a theme. And as soon as there's a sub theme, you create a new thread. And
Right.
if it's a larger new theme, you create a completely new thread.
Hmm.
And it's that level of thinking, okay, is this part of one stream of knowledge, or is this a new
Right.
stream? Is this a new substream, or is this a new mainstream? And that constant decision making process is what gives you all the positive increases.
As you're saying that, I was smiling because I'm like, wow, this is so engaging. Like as we engage with content, we're gonna understand it. We're gonna think of it differently rather than rote writing. So you're
Correct.
kind of engaging in it and you're interacting with the content. You're like, is this part of this? Is this part? Like there's very yeah, very interactive rather than just dictation. That's I yeah.
And
Hmm.
what I've done, again, because I don't want people to think I'm just doing all of this to, you know, generate revenue either now or at a later point. So what
Hmm.
I've done is I created an online course for Smart Wisdom. So I do
Hmm.
corporate training, which is more involved. But to get the core techniques, I created a really high quality online course. And for anyone who buys the book, there
Hmm.
is a code in the book to give you free access to the training so
Hmm.
you can benefit from Smart Wisdom in your studies and at work.
Ah, this is so good. Like again, another generous act. So not only the book. So if someone you get it, like I would suggest now, sooner rather than later. Go ahead and when you get the book, not only the proceeds for the first year are going for a good cause, but also you're going to get access to an online course that's with no extra charge, learning this smart wisdom. Yeah.
So all that will be ready and available, all being well, from the 10th of October.
Yeah. We'll put all of that in the show notes, the links, and actually, I want to ask you one more thing. I know we're just at the end, but the name of this podcast is Pause to Elevate. Pause to Elevate, and obviously, you've done a lot of pausing to reflect, but what does it mean for you? Pause to elevate. When you think of that.
So what it means for me
Mm.
is I consciously, and I've always done it and never understood why I've done it, but I think it comes back from mindfulness as well,
Mm,
is that by pausing, I'm able to reflect, and I'm able to reflect on what works and what doesn't work.
mm,
And what I'm looking to do, and I used to do this in the police, I'd go through like a complex process and I would stop at the end of it and I think, okay, what works, what doesn't work,
mhm.
with the end result that I would want to do something better. So the pausing for me, and I do it all the time, the
Mm,
pausing for me is usually to review and reflect. But the purpose of that is to is to find something better. And better
right.
could be easier, quicker, simpler, faster. So
Mm,
pause to elevate for me is like a crucial part of the mix.
yeah. Well, you clearly have paused and elevated your life. Not only your life, but the life of others. It truly is a pleasure having this conversation. And I'm wondering, as we come to an end, anything else you want listeners to know? Like, where can they find you? What's the best way? And I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, sure. The best way is it's not up yet, but I'm having built an author website, which will be jonathankemp.com.
Hmm.
And that'll be the best way to find me, find out about the book, the walk, um, smart wisdom, my family history, if that you find that interesting.
Beautiful. I'll put all of that. So, jonathankemp.com.
Yes.
Okay, very good. And other social media to put in the show notes or other ways that you like people reaching out to you?
Um, Probably the easiest is to go through the website, but I
Website.
can also send some links for the
Says.
show notes as well.
Very good. Very good. Well, this has been such a pleasure. And I tell you, I'm already looking forward to having another conversation with you after your 7 month adventure. I like part of me wants to join you in part of it. You know what I mean? Like join in the walk. So thank you for your incredible heart and your incredible courage and your incredible kindness. And really, you're walking the talk and for a good cause, and you're living it. Like this is it's not like it's over, no challenges are happening. You continue to live with things to make things better for your life and those around you. Thank you truly for who you are.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been very
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I want to thank all the listeners. If you're listening or watching, thank you so much. Please share this with friends, family, neighbors, coworkers, anyone you can think can benefit from all this beautiful wisdom that was shared today. And if you've subscribed, thank you so much. If you haven't, please do. It helps me continue sharing this content. Thank you, everyone. May your moments be filled with ease and may you be present in as many of them. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this content, check out what's coming up next right over here. Thank you.